Hey everybody, just coming to you with a little bit of a New Year's present, sharing some of my thoughts on what I've kind of thought about over the last, I don't know, well, it's been weeks and months, interesting things that kind of come to mind, but I kind of feel like now's the time to share it and maybe people can start the year off the right way. I've seen a lot on this platform and also Facebook, and people talking about, why does evil exist? And there's all these questions that I see that are sort of centered around that. If God was really so good, why would he allow evil to exist? And it's kind of interesting. I mean, when I think about it and drill into the issue, it really, to me, just seems to come down to free will. Are we or are we not creatures that have been created with a free will? And, free will, really, if you think about it, think about this last election. If there was only one candidate on the ballot, would the voters of this country say to themselves that they had free will and the ability to choose their president? No. In some sense, our free will is an ability to choose, and God has given us that ability, but it sort of necessarily involves having to choose between a good thing and a bad thing, and a good and evil. And so, God works all things for good to those who love him. And if you look at what is the whole purpose of evil, well, there was that choice, and humanity made that choice a long time ago, and now it's infected our entire world to this day. And wow, what an incredible destructive choice that was. Our own free will got us here. And in some sense, you think, well, that could be God's fault. He allowed evil to exist. But if he didn't allow it to exist, would we really have free will? And what is our purpose? Because it seems that our purpose is not necessarily to do good and try to be more like him, as much as it is to choose him and to choose to be with God, to make that choice, to not choose to do evil and to choose to be with God. And that is really what it's all about, I think, is making that choice. That's what he wants. He doesn't want automatons walking around. He could have created a bunch of automatons that just basically worshiped him all the time. That's probably an easy thing to do, but creating creatures with free will, truly free will, that would choose God over evil, that's something that's so much more than automatons. And here's what I want people to think about, is that God is not just an all-powerful God, but he is a God that is all-knowing. And if God knew that to create a creature with free will would involve having to give them a choice, then he knew by the very act of creating us was going to involve some of us rejecting God and some of us accepting God. And drill a little bit deeper on that, and I think what you see is that when God created us, he already knew. He already knew what he was getting into. And you know what? People say, well, how would God allow evil to exist? Well, guess what, guys? It's because he wants to know us. In fact, he wants to know us and have a relationship with us so much that he still created us, despite knowing what was going to have to occur in order for us to have free will and choose him. Now, What does that tell you? That when the God of the universe, who didn't have to create any of this, he didn't have to create you, didn't have to create me, but when he thought about it, he wanted to do it so bad that he knew, because he has foreknowledge, he knew that that would necessarily involve a choice. And so guess what? He knew that that choice, when humanity made it, was going to involve him having to die and clean up the mess. And now all we have to do is choose him. That's it. But what a God, right? He knew before he even created us, he knew what the cost of creating us would be. He knew that by creating us, by creating creatures with free will and wanting us to have eternal communion with him, was going to cost him his life. And he created us anyway. Have a happy new year. You know what? If that doesn't tell you that you are loved by God, what else would? What else would? Because you know what? We're here. Good and evil exists. We've been created. Can't deny any of it. The only reason is why. Well, if God knew all this ahead of time, he knew he was going to die. That's how much he loves you. He still created you anyway. Still came and died for you anyway. He didn't have to do any of it, but he did. Leave you with the ducks.